This presentation is going to be, you can look forward to following or learning about the following, which are going to be, while there are numerous programs to assist disabled veterans in making a safe and successful transition from military to civilian life, there are very few, if any, that cater to follow through successful maintenance. So there are companies that openly, specifically hire veterans for their punctuality, respect, and ability to effectively take orders. The problem is maintaining employment. It's bigger than collecting a check. Effectively reintegrating, and for some, integrating for the first time into the civilian workforce does not start at the job. Home life, proper communication, thorough training for the position, and mental wellness are all components that must be monitored and regulated to ensure not just job performance, but job retention. The great minds associated with APSE will provide ideas that are not only place a Band-Aid on veteran homelessness, but stimulate ideas that give our heroes back their sense of pride and independence. So I'm happy to present Teresa, or Terry Reeves, and she's going to also present her other.
Hi everybody, welcome, and I'm hoping you're having a great time at APSE so far. I know I am. I am Dr. Teresa Reeves. I teach at Mercer University in Atlanta, Georgia. I also, I'm coordinator of the program of clinical rehab counseling. And just a couple semesters ago, Nishe'e Queen came into the program. It's a master's level program. And I was extremely impressed with her, her knowledge, the things that she shared with me about the military that I had no idea about. So I'm really looking forward to this presentation. Initially, we were going to do it together. Not all students take the initiative that Nishe'e has taken. And so that has been a real blessing to me. But I want you all to know that this is Nishe'e's baby, regardless of the names on the placard, right? To tell you a little bit about Nishe'e, she was born in Philadelphia. So we have family here today. So I'm really pleased to introduce her grandparents. We have Marie and David Slocum, if you could just stand and wave. So what a blessing to have them here to see their granddaughter. How unusual to have that kind of opportunity, so fantastic. Sister, great sister, sister is here as well, Latoya. And then we have Mr. Kevin James with us. Kevin is an engineer at Cox Communications, and he has helped in a big way. It's Kevin Moore, let me be specific. Kevin has helped in a big way with our presentation. We could not have done it without you. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, let's see, we have got a history, short little history I want to tell you about Nishe'e. She earned her bachelor's in psychology from North Carolina A&T in 2014. It took a little while for her to earn that because of the third year that she was in college, she was determined to join the Navy. So she joined the Navy, and she was in for 4 years. She then came back, North Carolina A&T, and she finished her bachelor's degree in psychology. And to our great surprise and happiness, she came to Mercer University and is now studying clinical rehab counseling. Let's see, she has a heavy background in organizational work. She's the president at Mercer University's student organization. It's called DREAM. It stands for Disability Recognition, Education, and Advocacy Movement. And DREAM is only a year old, pretty close to a year old, and so we're brand new. The program's brand new. We're only 2 years old, so things are developing really nicely. Just this past year, she did a presentation at Atlanta Research Conference. She sits on the CTAE Advisory Board. It's Career and Technical Agriculture Education. I didn't know the acronym myself. She also volunteers with the Miracle League. The Miracle League is a baseball team for children with physical and mental disabilities. She's a student affiliate of the Licensed Professional Counselor Association in Georgia, and most importantly to us, she's an honorary member of APSE of Georgia. So with that, I introduce Nishe'e Queen.
Good morning. I'm really excited to be here. Naturally, I tend to talk very fast. I'm working on slowing that down. But at any event, they asked us to have hashtags. Those are mine. And it's going to fall in line with my topic today. As you see, I am in uniform. I am a combat veteran. I served off the coast of Yemen in 2011 to 2012. So everything I'm speaking, a lot of it is my opinion. However, a lot of it is actual experience that I know, and I've actually done a lot of research for it. So the topic is maintaining employment after recovery, the struggle of transition. I have those words highlighted, and I have them highlighted for a very good reason. Recovery, transition, disability. I am completely aware of what this conference stands for, but I wanted to challenge you to redefine some of these terms, because what they mean to me is something totally different. So recovery. We'll be discussing the recovery from deployment. Deployment is quite the institution. It's no different than any other thing that removes you from the normalcy of civilian world. You don't go to work at the same time, you don't eat at the same time, you don't conduct business the same way, and when you're on deployment, it's completely, it's structured all the more than when we're in our bases in America. If we're in our Florida bases or our California bases, it's a little bit different on deployment because what's required of you is different. And so whenever we mention the term recovery, I would like you to remember that we are discussing the recovery of a sailor, an Army person, a soldier, a veteran from deployment. Transition. Again, it is an institution. And that transition, that change back into the civilian sector can be quite complicated, and it's not always very successful. And so when we say transition, I will be talking about how we get back from what we were programmed to do, what we do very well and effortlessly, into what's expected of us if we don't look like the disability. And so naturally, we look at our veterans and we look at them and we're assuming that there should be some type of physical ailment, there should be some type of amputation that's associated with it, and in not all cases is that the situation. And granted, we do recognize that PTSD is more known amongst our veterans, and we are very much aware of the things that we are encouraged to do while we're in uniform that has to be reintegrated back into the civilian sector. However, there are a lot of different things that are not in the DSM-5. There's a lot of different situations that we're dealing with that cannot be diagnosed during the book, and that is what I'm calling the disability. Getting back into the civilian sector and operating with fluidity within that, in a comfort zone within that, that's not something that we can pinpoint and actually say. So again, I'm challenging you to use these words and not put them to where we've used them before. To acknowledge that we're talking about veterans coming off of deployment, getting back into the civilian sector in the realms of career, their family, and just into being who they are in themselves.
Sailor, attention! Stand at ease.
I maxed out on student loans. That was my motivation to enlist. I went into the recruiter's office on February 2nd of 2009 and stepped foot on Great Lakes Recruit Naval Station March 1st of that same year. This is what I would call boot camp, or home, for the next 3 months. 3 square meals, 2 workouts, random inspections, training, and drills, day in and day out. Only granted 2 phone calls, one to inform your family you had made it, and the other to inform them of your graduation date. Upon graduation, I went to A school, where I was taught the art of being a quartermaster, a navigator of ships, plotter of courses, a master of Morse code, celestial navigation, and, for all intents and purposes, a meteorologist. I loved it and graduated with honors at the top of my class. Shortly after graduation, I received orders to be an East Coast sailor on board LSD-41 USS Whidbey Island. Eager to set sail, I was confident this was going to be a piece of cake and the quickest route back to me pursuing my degree. However, my confidence would soon waver. I arrived in Virginia Beach, Virginia to see my ship in dry dock, commonly known among sailors as the yards. For the next 5 months, I would wear a hard hat, bust rust, sweep debris, paint, and grind metal. What part of my contract was this again? Shortly after being released from dry dock, we also received news that we'd be getting a new captain. Still very civilian-minded, I made it my duty to meet his acquaintance. The first week he was on board, I rushed to his side. "Good afternoon, sir. My name is Seaman Queen. I'm the newest quartermaster on board, and I'm excited to work for you and with you on this tour." Beaming with pride at my confidence and professionalism, I extended my hand. This was not well received. I was sent to a disciplinary review board. How dare I, a low-ranking seaman, approach a high-ranking captain? It was then that I lost any ties to what made me a civilian. Nishe'e Queen was to be placed in a box and locked away. There was no place for her on this vessel. Having never been reprimanded in my life, I introverted, dove headfirst into my rate, and spoke only when spoken to. Shortly after I promoted to 3rd class, my ship got orders to deploy, an African assistance mission to build homes and schools for African children. I couldn't have been more excited. Humanitarian efforts and a chance to set sail. However, 2 months prior to departure, our mission changed. We pulled out of port on March of 2011 for a 6-month tour. 800 crew members, 300 Marines. Around 4 months out to sea, the captain came across the 1MC to commend us on our efforts thus far, and to inform us that the intended 6-month deployment was extended. Return date to be determined. The silence across the entire ship was deafening. We had already been out to sea for 4 months. Same sunset, same sunrise. Same steel smooth ocean. No smell, no sounds. Just us and Earth. There's no way to prepare for a consistent Groundhog Day. Same sunrise, same sunset. Off the coast of Yemen, we went through the Suez Canal and touched many a countries, but we still weren't home. We would miss Christmas and New Year's, birthdays of relatives, birth of children, siblings' accomplishments, Valentine's Day, only to return home 1 year later, March of 2012, setting the record as the longest ship set to sail since World War II. At the end of that deployment, I had 1 year left in my active duty contract, and at that point I had decided that this was enough for me. I spent that following year preparing to reintegrate into the civilian world. I had to teach someone my trade so that they could take my place. I had to find housing in a different state, and for me, pursuing my degree meant getting back into school. All of these things worked well towards my civilian living, but there was no coping from deployment. March 1st of 2013, I saluted the ensign one last time and walked off of USS Whidbey Island and into the world.
Sailor, attention. Carry on.
I couldn't think of a better way to tell you my story. I'm still transitioning myself. I've only been out of active duty for 2 whole years. And I don't look like my disabilities. And so it's really, really difficult to work in a program where I'm acknowledging people with disabilities and they're looking at me as though I'm not a part of the group. I'm in your number. I have a quick story about it. I'm taking up tennis. I suck right now. I run track, I've danced. These are all singular activities. There's no short twitch muscles involved in this. You want me to watch the ball, turn my body, turn my racket, catch it. What? Wait a minute. Whole lot of instructions involved in all of this, but I'm really, really excited and eager to do it. And so I'm at the tennis court, and there's this gentleman who parks, and he gets out his car, and he's really, really mobile. He's moving really fast. And when he gets to the side of the car where I am, I look at him, and he's got a prosthetic, knee down. I'm working on being comfortable with asking people about their journey and their story regarding their physical disability. Because in my mind, I don't want them to misconstrue my excitement for your entertaining to me. Let me ask you about what's going on with you because this is so cool to me. And in a certain regard, it is interesting to me. This is where my heart lies. I want to know your story. Were you born this way? What happened to you? Because now it opens the gate for me to tell you about myself. And so I asked the guy his story. He was born with a bone deficiency, and essentially his leg was shorter than the other, and his heel was inverted. He had walked that way for 17 years. Something happened in his 17th year, and he had an accident, knee shattered that way. When the knee shattered, they had to amputate the leg. He was 27 at the time. He's walking very, very well. He was going to play tennis. I said, thank you so much for taking the time to tell me your story, sir. I was just asking because this is the program I'm in, and I also have a disability. And he looked at me, and he twisted his face, and I'm trying to figure out, did I not say that correctly? Like, I thought we were still, on the same page. And he said, I had on shorts at the time. I don't see your disability. Okay. I served in the United States Navy. I'm a combat veteran. A veteran? Yeah. You're not 21? No, I'm not. And the more questions he asked, it let me know that it wasn't his fault that he didn't see what I thought I was showing openly. I didn't know that it wasn't written on my face because I feel very conscious about it all the time. And so that was where I got my courage to actually speak on this topic, to write the paper that started out just as a grade in this program, to come in and tell you about my story. I recognize that it's not always understood, that a combat veteran is not what we're used to. They're not older gentlemen. They're not always walking around with their hats on, even though that's mine. They're not always walking around with an amputation. Sometimes they look just like me. They're not yet 30. They did deploy. They did experience some things, and really all they're trying to do is get back into some sense of normalcy while understanding that what they've encountered makes them completely different for the rest of their lives. Now, getting employment is easy. There's so many companies that are willing to hire veterans. We're punctual, we follow orders correctly, we don't need a whole lot of instruction. Go left, roger, left, right, left, and I am gone. There's no talk back. We are always eager and ready to do the job. And so these are some of the companies that I've found that are more than open and willing. In fact, their employment rate of veterans has increased 29% over the past 2 years. We've got, we've got DuPont, G4S, CSX, Mantech, PG&E Corporation, GE, USAA, Ameren, Walmart, and JB Hunt. What all of these have in common, or a lot of these, with an exception of a few, are trucking companies. These people want you to get in an 18-wheeler and drive across the country. How does this work for somebody who drove APSE? For somebody who was experiencing bombing in Afghanistan or Iraq? How does this work for him driving in the middle of the night? How does that work? We've got Walmart putting you in managerial positions and greeter positions. How does this work if I'm following the loss prevention guy, making sure he's doing his job, if I'm checking the perimeter? How am I a good manager to you? We've got USAA. Awesome. You know what I'm about. You're military. Maybe. We've got Ameren. You've got a lot of companies who actually say, we want you. All we need you to say on your resume is that you served. We want you. We'll find a place for you. And so this is great. Except, what happens when it's not the companies?
We all know that the unemployment rate has been around 9% for the past 2 years. But we were surprised to see that unemployment for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans is nearly triple that. 26% of vets between the ages of 18 and 24 are out of work. So we asked Bill Whitaker to look into it.
In Iraq, the Oregon National Guard's 41st Infantry Brigade combat team provided security for convoys day and night. A dangerous job. From July 2009 to March 2010, convoys were routine for gunners Lawrence Burnham and Stephanie Anderson. Good soldiers, they risked their lives and did their jobs and dreamed of returning home to routine civilian jobs, as Stephanie said in this video resume posted from Iraq.
I just love to work and I love to get the job done.
Lawrence Burnham made a video too.
I'm motivated and I'll be ready to work.
They returned home to Oregon heroes. More than a year later, they're feeling nearly defeated. Lawrence can't find a job, is running out of savings, almost running out of hope.
Very frustrating because it's almost like you get to the point of being like, what's the point, you know? What's the point in even looking for a job anymore? I'm not going to find one.
Hello. I was thinking if you guys were hiring by chance.
Stephanie, who dreams of being a chef in her own restaurant,
I got back from Iraq and looking for employment.
would feel fortunate to get a fast food job.
My name's Stephanie, by the way.
She's made it her job to find a job.
Basically, I write where I've gone to, and if they're hiring or not.
Got any idea how many jobs you've tried to get?
Probably up to 300 now.
So which was harder? The job you had over there or searching for a job over here?
Probably over here.
Of the almost 3,000 soldiers of the 41st Brigade combat team deployed with Stephanie and Lawrence, a full 50% returned here to Oregon to face unemployment.
You can ask questions about jobs.
Oregon's National Guard is a leader in helping soldiers re-enter civilian life, but in this job market,
It's competitive, it's hard. It was so much easier overseas and then come home and not be able to find a job. You get to the point where you're like, well, now where, what am I going to do?
And that's why my choice is to go active duty.
if she can't find a job, this part-time soldier with the National Guard plans to join the Army and become a full-time soldier.
So that I can just kind of have a permanent job and make a career out of the military.
Where, unlike in civilian life, Stephanie hopes her hard work and sense of duty will pay off. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Portland.
President Obama will visit the Washington Navy Yard tomorrow to talk about unemployed veterans.
These videos are not hard to find. They're all over the internet. You can find any young veteran, and the story is quite similar. It's not so much the availability of the jobs, it's a lot to do with how do I get into the job. It's a lot of what do I do once I'm in the job. I'm telling you that there's companies that have increased their employment rate by 29%, and then we just watched 2 young veterans tell you they can't get a job. Recognizing the toll this takes on one, this is what I'm acknowledging as a disability. This is what I'm acknowledging as the complication. Recognizing that it's not just a physical ailment that would keep these young people from employment. It has a lot to do with the fact that if they went in at 18 years old, granted, everything changes. Nothing is the same from high school as when I was there. So if they go in at 18 years old and they get out in their early 20s, they have no resume. Everything is related to what they've done in service. They have no credit. Everything that they've done, it's it's too easy to get a car while you're in the service, I promise. They have no means of getting housing on their own and turning on their electric and turning on their cable. And it's not to say that they aren't capable of getting these things taken care of. It is to say that if they went from 18 to doing something a certain way for 5 years, and this is pivotal, we see this with our people who go to college, and then they come out, what are they doing for themselves? How are they able to cope? And the toll that it can take on one when you go from protecting and serving and having a sense of independence and pride, and now I have to live at home. Or maybe I don't have a home to go back to, and that's why I went into service in the first place. And all I want you to do is trust that I know that I just came from combat, but I promise you I will show up every day in work and I won't flip out on you. And when I'm not hired, because maybe it's just not the type of position you need for me to fill, when I'm not hired, how does that work? To me, this is how we end up with an increased homeless veteran rate. To me, this is how we end up with our people who aren't diligent in fighting for the the benefits that they need to receive from the VA. Just in Georgia 2 months ago, we had a woman who had 5 children, combat veteran. They couldn't get her to come to her appointments. That's what they said. They couldn't get her to come to her appointments. She committed suicide and killed her children. Actuality, the VA is understaffed. This is no secret. The VA has been on the news for over a year now. We are understaffed, and what I found to be a complication is a lot of the staff is civilian. So if I come in and I'm asking for my services and I'm speaking in military jargon, I was dogged in a hatch, I said sail for so many years, do you really understand what I'm saying to you? And if you are of high stature in education, do you tell me that you don't understand what I've said? Do you ask me, what's a hatch? What does that mean for you to be a combat veteran? We haven't been to war. If you don't ask me those questions, I'm going to continue to tell you my story as is, and we've just lost each other. There's a disconnect there. Why would I keep coming back to the VA? You don't even understand me. So then you put people under the normal pressure. She had 5 kids to feed. So again, what if it's not the job market? What if it's the veteran? What if it has everything to do with the veteran not knowing how to write their resume? I have leadership skills. I can shoot this many weapons with my eyes closed, behind my hands tied behind my back. How does that transfer over to the civilian needs? How does that transfer over to the market? And if my entire resume reads from 18 to 24, just military jargon, do you trust that I can handle myself in the civilian sector? Do you trust that I know how to answer the phone and not bark at people? Do you trust that I'm able to do what you need me to do and not cause the company more issues than they're supposed to? And if you don't trust that, then I'm not employed. And that's not your fault at all.
You just can't go through that and see that and deal with it and not be touched or
Many Utah troops come home from war to tributes and loving families, but for many, the joy fades fast.
Then for the last maybe a week.
After serving in the Air Force, Edward Carey served 2 tours in Iraq with the Army.
I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of going over there.
He saw people die, but as a combat medic, he also saved lives. The war changed him.
And I just slept with your gear next to your rack. It came to the point where if mortars were rocked coming at night, you no longer run to the bunker. If you go out of your bed, put your vest over you to your helmet over your face and that's it. No one was so different. I will never be the person that I was before I went. I'm still trying to adjust.
25-year-old Jordan Studer served once as a Marine in Afghanistan and twice in Iraq with the Army.
The last 8 years of my life, I've only known and done one thing.
Now he's trying to be a civilian for the first time in his adult life.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm just willing to work. I get a job at 7-Eleven if I do.
War veterans in Utah are having a tough time finding work. While 7.1% of all Utahns were unemployed in 2011, for veterans, the number was 8.1%. For veterans of the Iraq War, 12.6%. And for young veterans like Jordan, ages 18 to 24, some experts say the number is as high as 30% nationally.
So quick on that.
Jordan, who is from Texas, is starting over here in Utah. What's on your resume?
My military career, my deployments, where I've been stationed, what training I've been through, my awards for deployments, the deployments I've been on, that's not right.
Jordan has been sending out resumes since December, and he's had a few interviews.
It's one of 3 answers. You're underqualified, overqualified, or you don't have your tattoos.
Jordan says many employers are afraid to hire veterans fresh back from war. What kind of skills do you bring to the table that you think people need to know about?
Leadership, the ability to work unsupervised, the ability to take direction and run with it and not ask questions.
Some veterans like Edward Carey are not ready for work, still reeling from the war wounds on his soul.
There it is, I feel good.
Edward still cannot forget the day in 2007 when his comrades were hit by enemy rockets. The Army awarded him for saving lives that day.
How much more could we have done? The ones that were killed on the ground, but we all did this.
Life has changed drastically for Edward's wife, Diane.
So much frustration. You know, you want them to be the person you were before. And they weren't. And they didn't really.
At first, Edward had nightmares, angry outbursts, then other reactions that hurt his family.
I isolated. I shut down. I ignored the will to include my family.
Edward has post-traumatic stress disorder. Recently, a 7-week program at the VA hospital in Colorado helped him make progress, but it's slow.
What's been the hardest thing about this for you? The hardest thing? Losing my brother. You know, for the day. I'm intuitive. I don't know his name.
The VA hospital says whether it is PTSD, unemployment, or physical injuries, many vets in Utah struggle to readjust to life at home.
We're sort of running as fast as we can with the resources that we have.
Patricia Goldberg says even those who do find jobs often feel alone.
In the military, people do have each other's back. There seems to be, especially on the battlefield, there's an incredible amount of trust. And in the workplace, in the civilian sector, there isn't that same sense of protecting your fellow worker.
In the military, we're all doing the same thing.
We got this teamwork.
And I miss it.
They have your back.
They have my back, whether it be combat zone or not.
Do you feel like people have your back in the civilian world?
Not in the same way as in the military.
One last thing. What is your hope for yourself?
Get to the point where I've got my own place again.
As a civilian, what's your hope for yourself, for your family?
I wish that I could know that my family, to include myself, are safe. And I wish to never again have to even consider taking another life.
Most commonly, we recognize the combat medic vet, PTSD. I was on the ground. Most commonly, we recognize the soldier. I was a sailor. I never put foot on the ground for a year. One whole year, I had to learn how to get my sea legs, is what we call it. There you go. I had to get my sea legs. I'm standing like this. So much so, if we're rocking hard enough, I'm standing like this for a year. And if there's no port to accept us at the time, if the country we're going to is not in peace, we can't go. So it turns into, we're pulling into port next week, psych, we're gonna float in this box for another month. And again, as my audio vignette said, same sunset, same sunrise. I never in a million years thought I would take shooting stars for granted until you see them every day. Want to go on a cruise? No, I do not want to go on a cruise. No. But it's so pretty out there. Psych. You ever heard somebody scream for their life? Because pirates are real. And that's what I know. You ever seen those whirlpools in the ocean? They are really not cool when they show up on the course that you plotted and now you have to deviate really, really quickly. So while at some point, sure, I will be able to go on a cruise, probably Disney or, you know, that's not on my to-do list tomorrow at all. But on the other hand, we have the younger gentleman who's done great things in his career and he wants to work at 7-Eleven just to have employment. 7-Eleven? That's what you're willing to do because you just want to have some sense of independence? The lady asked him at the end of the interview, what's your biggest request? A place of his own. Because at some point, isn't that what we all want? To have your own set piece. I walk through the door, it smells like meat. I cook what I want to eat. I'm going to do my laundry or not. I'm going to kick off my shoes from the door to the bedroom. That means a lot. And in the service, we don't really get that, especially if you're lower ranking. You're in somebody's barracks, sharing it with somebody who doesn't do anything right. It's just all the way wrong. So when you get out, that's one of the biggest things you look forward to, and he can't acquire that right now because he has no finances. Interestingly enough, he said, I'm either overqualified, underqualified, or my tattoos. I am unemployed right now. I am a full-time student, thinking and understanding that my tattoos can't possibly be a problem in the classroom. It has nothing to do with my academics at all. Let me show you how well I write this paper. Give me my A. Except, in a counseling program, there's certain things that we have to learn. We have to lean into our client to show them that we're interested. We have to learn how to listen, and we have to not be offensive. And so I tell my instructor, I'm going to show my tattoos. Why would you do that? Because my demographic is veterans. And to a lot of older veterans, not only do they not trust the VA, but they don't know that I exist. I'm a young female combat veteran. They do not know I exist. Why would you tell me your story? I can't relate. Unless, of course, I connect with you. It's not nice work right there. Where'd you get that from? Canada. What were you doing in Canada? We pulled into port there for a week. Port? Yes. I served just like you. Tell me your story. I promise you I'll understand. I thought I had related to my professor. I thought the instructor understood where I was coming from. I got real slow in my tone and emotional. I thought we were connecting. Come finals, I wore a blouse, button up, very professional. I rolled it 3/4. My grade was reduced to a B. My tattoos are offensive. My tattoos are my story. My tattoos are my connection to what makes me who I am. My tattoos are a part of the journey that got me to stand before you today. And I had a grade reduction for it. I cannot imagine how this is going to work when I go to get a job. Long sleeves, year long. I live in Georgia. I'm sorry. You guys are interested in this weather right now in Philadelphia. This is us all the time. But I'll be in long sleeves. Again, we are talking about the transition from deployment to employment. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. As I spoke in my audio vignette, I went from a deployment. In that year between the transition, we went to Savannah, we went to Canada. I was back on the same ship. I was back on the same sea. I was back in the same ocean. I was back doing the same exact things, as well as trying to find out if I can find an apartment in a different state. Finding out if I can get back into school and what semester that would work. Requesting of my superiors to let me take leave to go and get my driver's license transferred over because I was gone for a year. In fact, when I came back, I went to the bank that didn't exist anymore. Wachovia disappeared. Where'd it go? Who is Wells Fargo and why are they pulling a horse and buggy? What am I missing here? No more Wachovia. I also came back to get a cell phone. I didn't need a cell phone while I was overseas, and I'm looking for a keyboard because I can go to work on my keyboard. There's no more keyboards. There's no more Blackberries. It's all smartphones. I don't want a smartphone. I don't understand how my finger's going to touch this screen and get me to where I'm supposed to be. Full freak-out session in the Sprint store with my mother. It was weird for her. It was weird for me. I didn't really understand why I was having a temper tantrum. You can only imagine how much your life changes in 1 year. I was gone for 1 year. A whole bank disappeared. This isn't even relative to my neighborhood, how many things had been destroyed and rebuilt, how many streetlights had been added, all the different things that happened, and I was bugging about a cell phone. It's not so much the availability of jobs. I actually worked at a vet center while I was going to get my undergrad. I worked in the Greensboro Veterans Center, and that was one of the greatest things that could have ever happened to me. I was surrounded by people like me. I was surrounded by people who understood what I was talking about, what a bad day looked like before I said a bad day. If we saw the same thing on the news, what that meant. Technically, I am still under contract. I am in active reserves. If anything happens, God forbid, like 9/11, they're calling me. I have to stop school and go back to everything that I was trained to do. How do you rest when you know that that could happen when every other day something else is showing up on the news? Every other day. Shay, you want to watch the news? No. I'll just wait until they tell me I have to put back on the uniform and hope I can still fit it. It's like you never get to really relax from what's happening because you know more than what's showing on the news. My war is Gaddafi. I don't know what they told y'all on the news, but I got a different story, I promise. And I'll never forget that. I'll never not know that. So while we go to work, And again, you're expecting me to be a manager and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're doing what you're supposed to do. I'm following the loss prevention guy because he's not doing his job. That guy's been in the store for about 5 hours. He's looking a little shaky. I don't know. What happens when I come to work and I'm late because I had to check the perimeter before I came into the building? What happens if I'm driving and an 18-wheeler drives too close to me? Total freakout session because my ship actually crashed into Canada. We don't really know what we're looking for just yet in all of this, and all I would like to let anyone who listens to me know is the disability we're looking for is bigger, and sometimes it's invisible. I could tell you 1,000 things that's wrong with me right now that I'm being compensated for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because as long as you acknowledge it and you still want to give me a job, it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. Please just make me be important again. Make me be relevant again and independent again. That's what matters. And so the bridge between employment and deployment and employment is a shaky, shaky bridge. And a lot of us don't cross it well. These are the struggles of transition. On deployment, we create our own language. It has nothing to do with anything you've ever heard. You can't research it. We come up with our own way of talking to each other. And we do it easily, and we don't care what your race or ethnicity or gender is. It's across the board. You take it or you leave it. Period. This is a coping mechanism. So if I come straight from deployment into that, how do I know if what I'm saying to you is inappropriate? We have our own jargon. If I tell you I'm not comfortable standing here anymore, I'm going to walk over here to this bulkhead. Bulkhead is the wall. That's all it is. But if you served in the Army, you don't even know what I'm talking about because I'm a sailor. And a bulkhead is on a ship. So it's not just across the board to civilians. It's branch to branch. Excuse me, manager, I know I just took my 5-minute break. Do you mind if I go use the head? I go to the bathroom. That's all I said. If you tell me verbatim, this is what I need you to do. Want. As a lower ranking person, I don't ask you any questions. I don't ask you, I don't think out of the box. I don't tell you what else you need me to do. I do exactly what you said. You're looking for me to show you initiative. I wasn't allowed. It's not that I'm incapable of showing you initiative. That is reprimandable in the service. So if I'm taking initiative, please give me permission to show you initiative. Don't assume that I know to show you that, depending on my rank. That's just the jargon. That's just normal in the Navy. But what happens when we're in the break room and we're joking? I don't joke the same way you do, I promise. They do not call us cussing sailors for no reason. It is filth and flarth and filth. And that is inappropriate. Now I'm an HR issue because I said the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. I don't even know what I did wrong at all. What did I do? Or how about you put me in a supervisor position and I'm reprimanding somebody for showing up late? Naturally, first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to point at my family. What happened? Where were you? Why didn't you show up on time? Why didn't you even let me know what was going on? I've just knife-handed you. That is disrespectful. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm literally asking you to tell me why you're late. But coming to a civilian, I've just offended you, and you're an adult, and I'm an adult. We both drove to work, and there's no reason for me to talk to you that way. I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. And if I come from one extreme to the next, and I've not had time to decompress, I've just lost my job doing something that I didn't even know was an issue. I've gotten 4 write-ups in 2 months, and just what did I do? How do you explain that again? And how do I fix that if I don't know what the true issue was? I told somebody that they were late to work. I made a joke about somebody in the break room. These are some of the struggles. Our language, how we communicate to each other, what our expectations are totally different. It's like the biggest fraternity in the world. If you ever meet anybody else who's ever served, it's almost like, I missed you so much, where have you been? Because just like the video said, that gentleman, there's a camaraderie there. There's an understanding that if we wore this uniform together, I trust you because you trust me, and we're going in together, so we're coming out together. If you're getting promoted, I'm getting promoted because anything I learned, I'm giving to you. You need to do these PQRs. You need to talk to this person. That's understood. The civilian world's a little bit more dog-eat-dog when it comes to promotions. If I know it, you don't know it. Because that crowd's where I get my advancement from. It's something to be adjusted to. Granted, I do not mean to offend anyone who actually is dealing with or recognizes someone who has a physical disability. I just want you to think for 5 more seconds that our veterans don't look like older gentlemen anymore. Our veterans look like me. Our veterans are not always going to put foot on ground in Iraq or Afghanistan and losing limbs. Sometimes they're just stuck in the middle of the ocean and they can't look at the sky the same way anymore. But that's enough of my stories. We're going to go by the numbers. We're going to do facts. We're going to do real stuff now because numbers don't lie. Unless, of course, they do. Female veterans, 9% of that projected population. This is 2014. Now, granted, let's just say that this came from the VA. Again, females don't typically go to the VA for service because we're not yet commonly recognized. Our women's services, and I can only speak of Atlanta because that's where I've been for the past year or so. My North Carolina VA system was completely different, but in Atlanta, they have the women's wellness completely separate from the VA. Completely separate from the VA. None of the physicians in the hospital are prepared to accommodate the needs of a female veteran. These are our monthly checkups. These are our yearly checkups. These are everything that makes us girly-girlies. All those things that still need to be checked on, we can't get them done at the normal VA hospital. So I'm going to the VA hospital to deal with one thing, and then to do everything that makes me a female, I'm going to a totally different facility. Was I wrong to be a girl? Department of Veteran Affairs, veteran period of service statistics at a glance. Vietnam era, Gulf War era, peacetime only, Korean conflict, World War II. The only reason why this slide is up here is because this was taken in 2014 again. Combat veteran, 2011 to 2012. I am an OIF combat veteran. You won't see it for a while, for years. This isn't new. This is exactly what our other brothers and sisters in arms have dealt with for years, but I get it now. I get it. No, I didn't go to Afghanistan. No, I didn't go to Iraq. I went off the coast of Yemen. Again, Gaddafi is my war. Operation Enduring Freedom. Operation Iraqi Freedom. Operation New Dawn. These will be your new terms. These will be the things that you'll hear as frequently as your Vietnams, as your Korean conflicts, as your World War IIs. These are the new era of combat veterans. Those guys are me. So, non-seasonal, full-time, permanent, veteran, new hires. These are all of your Social Securities, your DODs, Department of Defense, Veteran Affairs, Small Business Administrations. This is their numbers of hiring veterans as of 2013 in percentage rates. Looks really good. Except now, the issue that is most prevalent to me is, what does a veteran look like? I've tried to drive it as much as I possibly could. We don't look the same anymore. And in that, what I've found is going to the VA, one of the most disrespectful things that happens to me is, whose daughter are you? Like as though I'm bringing my parent to the VA? I'm coming there for me. Whose wife are you? As though I'm bringing my spouse to the VA? I'm coming there for me. It's just a matter of not knowing what they look like anymore. But as I've explained to my family, a lot of women, for whatever reason, I've found they come out of the service and whatever hurt doesn't hurt as much. For one thing, if I were in service and I wore my gun belt, any ailment that I complain about, it's got to be because I'm a girl. It's too heavy for you because you're a girl. You don't know how to shoot because you're a girl. Is your period on? Like, seriously? And anything that you complain about through mental health services, you lose the right to hold your gun. And it's almost a unspoken, I know why you can't carry a weapon anymore. And so as to not draw attention to yourself, you just don't say it. You just don't talk about it. So when it's time to get to the VA, you're still in that mindset of what you're not talking about, what you won't discuss. So you don't receive the services. There's not as many females going to receive services from the VA as males. So if that's the case, then how do they know what we look like? How do they know that we exist? We're not going in numbers as the men are. It's not our fault or their fault. It's just what's happening right now. Seriously, I have to stand on the other side? Okay.
If I go to the VA to get services, they ask me whose wife I am, which is not frustrating at all. What a veteran looks like? There's not really a look. I can tell a lot of the time, for men especially, but gals, it's so hard to tell.
I think there's definitely an image of what a woman veteran looks like. They're going to have short hair, they're going to be kind of manly, they're going to have an attitude with them. And that is so narrow.
What was the question? What is a veteran to me? A veteran can be a kid who decides that they want to join to defend their country, and a veteran can be that person that says, you know, I just kind of need to pay for college. And that was me.
I think most Americans see veterans as figments of Hollywood. So whatever the latest action movie is, women tend to get real forgotten in that narrative.
A veteran to me is just camaraderie, someone that's always going to be there that I can trust.
Well, for us in the Marines, we say Semper Fi. It's a short for Semper Fidelis, and it means that we are always faithful to our service, to our country, to the people, and to each other. I like to carry that through everything in life.
You have an identity. And then when you enter the military, that identity kind of evolves. And that's life-changing. You cannot get out of there and experience life in the same way.
I don't really want to be seen sometimes.
I'm usually very lighthearted, outgoing, happy-go-lucky, and then when they find out I'm a Marine, usually they're shocked, and they're like, why did you do that?
If I keep my hair in a bun, it's a lot easier to understand that I'm a vet. But as soon as it comes down, if I go to the VA to get services, they ask me whose wife I am, which is not frustrating at all.
What does a veteran look like? I would say a veteran looks like any one of the persons that you might see walking across the street. There is no stereotypical veteran.
You might be surprised. They might not wear it on their sleeve. They might not have the tattoos or the crew cuts. And they might. I'll always love being a Marine.
I chose all of my videos because there was a common message. You're just not the same at all. Even if it's just because you went in for a couple years and according to my grandmother, every 10 years you change. Or from your early 20s to your late 20s you change. And that in and of itself, as we can see in our generation now, is just quirky. But implementing all of the military and everything that it involves on top of that, I tried to come out and be the same person I was before I went in. I was an undergrad, I had crazy hair, I wanted to go and party, and I tried to come out and I could not be that person. One, I was older. But two, going to a park where a bunch of people are running around just didn't seem fun to me anymore. I can't see your hands, I can't see where you're standing. Why did you run that direction and I stood that direction? It's not the same anymore. And I've only been out for 2 years, but no matter how long you've been out, it is a part of you. It is a part of your fabric. And discussing that is not always the easiest discussion to have. Which is now why I understand when I told my grandfather I was going in, it was not a pleasant conversation. And I couldn't understand, I'm not asking you for money, I'm about to go to the military so I can get back in school and make my own money. I get it now. You will never be the same. As the woman in the first video explained, all she wants is her husband back. She won't get it back. So it's not just a matter of getting into the work field, it's a matter of getting back into your family. My little brother is afraid of me. I took a picture on deployment. They sent me through corporal's course, raw Marines. And they took a picture, and I can't be I was the only girl, but I couldn't be like the girl going through the course. So they captured a picture where I'm standing very stoic-faced with like 4 Marines behind me. And that picture is on his bedroom wall. So when I tell him, Stop acting silly in school, do what you're supposed to do. I'm thinking I'm just being a big sister telling him what he's supposed to do. I have just reprimanded him in the worst way ever. He is not okay with it. He told my mom he doesn't want to talk to me anymore. It's my baby brother though. If I can't do it with family, how do I go to work and do that? These are all my real life stories, but again, I showed you these videos because the resounding message is you're just not the same. And as long as we can recognize that and make sure that it's a paradigm shift within the work field, making sure that it's a paradigm shift within our civilian family members, that we can't be who we were, but if you're just patient with us, if you're just patient with us, everything that I consider a disadvantage or a disability, because it's making things a little bit more complicated now, we can all be on the same page. You're patient with me, I can be patient with you for being impunctual. Along with the statistical data that I required, I also reached out to a couple of my peers, people I had served with, people I'm in school with. Again, when I went back to undergrad, I was 26 years old and they thought I was the same age as them. Until I got before the class and did class presentations and I wasn't fiddling with my fingers and being nervous and hemming and hawing until they got into groups with me. And I was like, you got that responsibility, you got that one, and you got that one. I need it by this date, no later. They were like, excuse me? Yeah, 1600, I need your part of the presentation, I gotta put it together. And they're like, we don't ever wanna be in a group with her again. So I actually got some data from a couple of those people. What was the age? I sent this out on my Facebook, on my personal social media site, and that was the greatest number that came back. 25 to 34. We're not looking for the same dynamic in veterans anymore. What was the gender? Now, granted, we do know that women are easier to take a survey than a man. However, the last one said 9%. Are you service connected for services? I was astounded to find out how many people said they were not sure if they were service connected. This is through the VA. This is understanding that what I acquired in service, I can be compensated and or treated for after I've served. This means I stared at the brightest of the sun on the glassiest of the ocean. My eyes will never be the same. I have severe keratitis. What turns out to be just conjunctivitis or pink eye for you sends me into a period of being blind for about a month. What is just irritating allergies for you flares up my eyes. Any medicine I take for it dries them out. Again, severe keratitis, I'm blind, temporarily. I got eye patches and everything else. The sunlight is a huge issue. So I go to the VA and I get glasses. I get free eye appointments because my eyes weren't like that before I went in. So anything that changed because of your service in, especially a deployment, how are you not being treated for that? Who do you go to? Especially if you're over 25, you can no longer be on your parents' health insurance. How do you get your own health insurance? Most young people don't even know about life insurance policies, so why would they go get health insurance? I'm sick, I don't get sick, I'll be fine. I'll go get something over the counter and be good to go. No, you need to go to the VA and get some medicine, but they don't know to do that. Again, my real story, I was dogged in a hatch. These are watertight doors on a vessel so that any part of the vessel that actually takes on water, the rest of the ship does not submerge. We are able to get the water out and or depress the situation before it causes a casualty. I was closed in one of those, daggone Marines. I went to the VA and told the lady I was dogged in a hatch. She wrote me up for carpal tunnel, saying that I could have gotten that type of injury from typing on a keyboard. Yep. She didn't know what a hatch was. She didn't ask me. Closed in a hatch. I said it's something like a door, except we've got plugs around it. So she took closed in a door. I don't have my full grip in my right hand. Good thing I'm ambidextrous. Sometimes I just write with my left hand. But if I weren't, she's writing up the order, the diagnosis incorrectly. But again, under 30, I go to the VA and I am serviced for that. I receive physical therapy for my wrist. I slept on a rack for a year. I don't know if anybody understands what that means. It's a twin-size bed. I don't care how tall you are, sir. I don't care how large you are, sir. You are on a rack. Same rack as me, as a 5'4" woman. And it's like the mattress may be this thick, maybe, on steel. And you have to learn how to sleep a certain way so when the ship is rocking, you don't fall out of it. But what I'm saying is, sleeping on that for a year will mess up your back. Lower lumbar issues. I'm not even 30 and I have lower lumbar issues. I heard I'm gonna start breaking down when I get older, and I've already started with this kind of stuff. Being service connected means I can go to the VA and receive therapy for these things so that it decreases the speed with which it will increase in pain for me. It gives me back my quality of life. But most veterans my age don't know that they can go and receive the services that they need for that. So anytime I meet a young veteran, I'm telling them anything I possibly can, giving them form information. Path taken after separation. This matters to me. This only matters to me because I had done college before I went to the military. So getting back into college was not intimidating. Trying to figure out the registrar's office is intimidating whether you took a break to go to the service or to raise your children. That's just a quirky system in and of itself. But if you've never done it before and you come in your mid-20s, it's all the more intimidating. So for me, going back to school was not a real issue. I still had an ID number at this former school. I still knew people who were in the registrar's office or the treasurer's office. I had personal in line because I'd already been to that institution. But if you've never done that, how do you choose to go back to school? When in actuality, the post 9/11 GI Bill makes it accessible for veterans to go to and get education. The vocational rehab through the military makes it necessary for older veterans to get a trade so that they can get employment. Because again, I was a quartermaster. So this means I drove ships, I plotted courses on maps, which for you land people is totally different than plotting a chart for land nav. Looking at the ocean with no real marks is totally different. So I'm plotting charts. I'm doing Morse code. It's a dead art. Celestial navigation, I can tell you where every constellation is. It's a dead art. The only jobs that I could do coming out of the service with that skill set is merchant mariner, cruise ships. Maybe I could work for the public transportation system and do grids, maybe. But of those three options, 2 of them still takes me away from being at home. 2 of them still puts me back in the middle of the ocean. So if you don't have a skill set that you can transfer over to the civilian sector, they have educational programs that push you in for it. But if you're not privy to that, if you're intimidated by that, and so I asked people what they had done when they got out of the service. Some of them just went and got quick jobs. Some of them had come from a career and got back into a career, or they had a skill set like an IT person, a technical person. Everybody's looking for that. You've got a secret clearance, come on over here. So you've got a couple of those people who went back into a career, and a majority of them, because of their age group, went to school or trade. The why, I actually had surveys and asked people different reasons why, and that's where I'm giving you the explanation. I actually don't have it here, but I did read those things. Some people just went and got a job because they had family, they had children. You can't be too picky when you have mouths to feed. Career, some people had already started networking before they came out of the service, or they had left a position to go back into a position. If they had done reservist first and went active duty for our deployment, they were able to come back out and go back into their job. And then for school, because they had a trade that they weren't familiar with, or because for whatever reason they felt young enough that they could still go back to school and it wouldn't throw off their life process too much. Those were the reasons that these numbers came through. And what were your living accommodations after separation? Again, I went in a little bit older to the military, and so I had already had an apartment prior to. I'd already done schooling and understanding that they have housing situations through that, and screwed up my credit a little bit. So I had some kind of a platform when I came out of the service, but some people don't. And so their living accommodations, some people went and lived with their spouse. Some people went and lived with their family. Most went and did independent living, and actually some of them were homeless. Minding you that the demographic that this came from were people 25 to 34. We have children that are homeless. These were some of the comments, and I know that this looks really, really screwy, but I'm gonna read off some of them for you. These were comments, anything you care to mention about your post-military experience. One of the responses says that I think it should be implemented that soldiers coming off active duty service or any military service should be offered at least a part-time job and immediate health benefits. Soldiers struggle the most to find jobs, homes, and obtain proper health care. And I don't think it's fair at all. It's like going from being well taken care of to now having to struggle to survive, and in turns puts a lot of stress on soldiers and their families. One person just said, difficult transition. Another person says the VA has really bad service and they need more physicians. Another person says it's a bit shocking seeing how civilians work and treat each other. Not the family that I had grown to love. Another says it's hard. After Uncle Sam is done with you, they kick you to the curb. No help, just left out in the cold to fend for yourself. Slightly agree with that one, just a smidge. Again, I consider it to be one of the biggest fraternities in the world. And when you're not re-enlisting, it's almost like you're turning your back. You're not renewing your contract, figure it out. And they send you through a course that pretty much tells you you're going to need a resume, you're going to need to find housing, you're going to need to do these things, and some of this stuff is available to you. But you still have to go and dig and do the research yourself. And even in the VA, it's a hurry up and wait process, hurry up and wait process, hurry up and wait. People in uniform understand what hurry up and wait means. Get there at 8 o'clock in the morning when it opens, you're not leaving until 5 when it closes. And a lot of people just don't have the patience to wait on it. Again, I've only been out 2 years and I'm completely service connected and receiving all of my benefits. But I was young and I don't have a family. I don't have children. I'm unmarried. All I had to do was go and sit at the VA with my smartphone that I eventually figured out how to use. It took me 6 months to get back to the true person that I am. Being institutionalized is greater than imagined. That was one of the responses. It took me about a year. When I first got out, I introverted. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't think anybody could understand. I called my grandmother on numerous occasions and was like, I don't know what to do. My sister won't talk to me anymore. She's mad that I won't talk to her anymore. And something she told me that helped me get through it was, the people who love you the most will still be there when you're back to you. And that made it a little bit more easy to me because people were expecting me to be a big sister. My mom was expecting me to be a daughter. People were expecting me to go back to being the college friend that they had, and I just couldn't. There's still some things that I can't do. My mom hasn't gone anywhere. My sister hasn't gone anywhere. My grandparents hasn't gone anywhere. My godfather hasn't gone anywhere. I've acquired a phenomenal professor. I even got a cute little boyfriend. There are plenty of helpful organizations in the communities. I live in Kentucky, Virginia, and currently in Colorado. The challenge is to find and complete all of the necessary paperwork to get assistance if it is needed. I've met many veterans who don't even know that depending on your disability, you can get a clothing allowance. How come they don't know that? If you're wearing braces as an amputee or just as support, the Velcro will jack up your clothes. If you're having some type of skin condition and you're wearing an ointment, it will jack up your clothes. How do I go to work in clothes that are damaged or tattered? They give you an allowance for those things. A lot of people don't know that. I think the Navy taught me a lot of things that I can use in the civilian world. After my military experience, it helped me realize that I could move almost anywhere and be fine, as long as I know that I have the support system, which is the military family I made while I was in. All of the stories are not horrible. Again, there are some people who come out with complete success stories. I have my bachelor's degree. I think I'm doing pretty well attaining my master's degree. I think I've socialized pretty well. I don't think I'm making you guys feel too awkward about the way I am, but everybody doesn't have a bad story, but there are quite a few who have not transitioned properly. And again, I just want us to all understand that the transition is not easy. You will never be the same. What we all consider to be a disability looks a little bit different. It's quite the disadvantage. And so with those things, my proposed solutions, and granted I am just a grad student, if any of these seem like far-fetched and illogical, it's not my fault. Proposed solutions, transitional living. So this is my grandiose idea. If you come out, it's something like a dorm situation. You have housing immediately. If you went into the military because your housing situation was very, very poor, you don't have anything to go back to. If you don't know how to get your own apartment or you don't have credit, it's not the easiest thing to do. And so here's a place for you to live, because once you are out of the service and that active duty contract expires, you cannot go back home base and live anywhere there. And so now we would have transitional living. In that transitional living, what I suggest, what I think would be productive and conducive is an on-site counselor. Every day is not a bad day, but the bad days are certainly bad. Someone who helps them with career building, how to change the trades they learned as a service member into civilian recognized skills. I have 3 resumes. I have one that says all military stuff. I can go be a police officer right now. I have another that makes all of those really cool skill sets seem really civilian. And then I have one that strictly is a CV that gets me into doing incredible things like this and speak at APSE. You would also be able to have someone who helps you get into medical benefits. Right now, the only medical health care I get is through the VA. It works. It's not the best, but it works. If something happens to me, I am rushed to the nearest VA to receive services. But I would really, really, really like to go see a dentist. And I can't do that because my compensation isn't high enough and you have to have a certain rating to receive dental care in the VA. I'd really like to see one. Again, I'm unemployed, I have no income to get health insurance. I just gotta go to the VA and brush 3 times a day and hope it works. Keep a floss on deck. As far as it goes. But those types of things, understanding, breaking down what healthcare makes sense for the young veteran so that they can get into those types of things. But they're not on a curfew. They're not restricted to that. If they want to go home and be a part of their family, absolutely go do that. But if being around your crying baby and you haven't heard a baby ever is just a little bit overwhelming, you can stay in this transitional living. If you're not sleeping well, as I did I still have quirky sleeping habits. If you don't sleep well because you were stationed somewhere in a different time zone, you can come here. Maybe that sleeping pattern is disturbing to your spouse. That sleeping pattern is disturbing to your family. You can stay here and get reacclimated into, we wake up this time every day, we go to sleep at this time every day. Let's get you back into a normal sleeping pattern. These types of resources, teaching them how to cook. At 18 in the service, you're going to the galley. Somebody is cooking for you 3 meals a day. You have no idea how to prep for yourself, and oodles and noodles will raise up your blood pressure. So they'll teach you how to cook for yourself and what a proper diet is. This would certainly help with our obesity issue in America. We've got all sorts of things, resources right here in the transitional living, which is optional. It is not mandatory, but if you have nowhere to go, come here. My second option would be training for human resources. The reason I think this would be important is if my complaints come to HR and you're ready to fire the veteran, I think it would be incredibly beneficial for the HR person to be able to ask certain questions that would bring about a conversation that would let you know more about the person. Instead of, you're just so angry all the time, you don't know how to talk to people, we can't have you in our company anymore. It would behoove them, I think, and make us feel so much more comfortable if you asked, have you ever served? Granted, that's on our application, but how many people in applications do human resources see? But if they remember to ask that question, and if they know what that looks like, then I think it would be beneficial. I just came across a book, I haven't quite read it, so I won't talk about it too much. 5 dysfunctional, he always talks to me behind his phone, I can't see his mouth at all.
5 dysfunctions of a team.
5 dysfunctions of a team. I think that pyramid is incredible. And one of the things that the video said is that they don't feel like it's the same type of friendship, same type of home situation. I think if the HR person were able to ask certain questions, it would leave for a space of vulnerability and transparency that allowed me to tell you that because I'm still dealing with things from deployment, I didn't sleep last night. That's why I'm cranky, I'm sorry. I haven't slept in about 2 days, actually. Which then leaves space for you to say, all right, maybe this is not grounds to fire you. Maybe I need to give you some leave. Go to bed, please. Maybe if I tell you that my wife is expecting something from me that I can't give to her, this is taking a toll on me. I've carried many men through combat. I've saved lives, and I can't make my wife happy. Now you know to outsource me to counseling instead of firing me. I think if there was a different level of training, because then leaves space for healthy conflict. Now you can tell me what you expect of me as an employer, and I can tell you why I can or cannot give that to you, and or tell you how I'm going to work really hard from this point to give it to you, but the only way I know how to at this point is this way. I only know how to give you the results you want from me in this manner. But now at least we're creating real dialogue. There's real conflict here. We're able to communicate with each other. I think these are great tips that will make good structure for the HR. So it's not to say that I can change anybody in HR. I'm not even completely familiar with it. Again, I'm unemployed. But what I'm saying is, if they know certain questions to ask, it can open the gateway to so many different things. as an aspiring counselor, I know the first part about people is they have the solutions to their own problem. They just need somebody to listen. And if HR is not so busy with the turnaround, getting them in to get them out, and they're being more willing to listen, we could keep our veterans employed because they want to work. And that is where I'm leaving space for our questions, if you have any, and I'll do my very, very best to answer them. Yes, ma'am.